Good morning from New York. Today, mystics have progressive minds. Vote for Kamala. Enter the infant mind with play. Appeal to the inner artist. A mystic was someone who communicates, in a loving way within their own minds and within their own social circles. And that can be very broad nowadays. A true mystic is going to vote progressive because the path of love does not involve curing things with punishments. Yeah, it doesn't endorse a punishing attitude. I'll give you an example of the mystic Jesus, who, when asked about the draconian laws and prophets, he said, I didn't come to get rid of this. I came to fulfill it. Well, what fulfills the intent of religion? Love does. And is religion sufficient? Had that first been sufficient, then there'd been no need for the second covenant, right? Second covenant is about empathy. It's about love. When you have love, you don't need the law and the prophets. And the law and the prophets, all that's going to get you is people who are scared not to be good. And that's not genuine. They wash the outside of the cup, but the inside, not so good. Jesus said, I love this particular mystic a great deal. He said that the Pharisees were like a whitewashed tomb. Outside very pretty, and inside full of dead man's bones. You're spiritually dead that way. Spirituality is about love. What else? Name it. It's about love. If it's loving, it's spiritual. If it's not, it's not. And a mystic would vote progressive because when when I say progressive, I'm talking about for progress toward love in a society and away from punishing attitudes and stirring people up the way a con artist does and the way Trump does with fear and anger, which lowers our thoughtfulness. That's not the way of the mystic. They don't run around saying believe or else. It's ridiculous. So, a lot of people say, do you follow Jesus? I follow all the mystics, where they are teaching forms of empathy. So, moving right along, of course, if you're progressively minded in the United States, you would vote for Kamala. And that means you need democracy in order for human rights to exist, in order for the path to a greater love flow to exist. You have to have democracy. You have to include everyone, not the way a lot of religious people do. It's like, well, I love you, but not your sin. Which is a part of them, enough that they think they're going to a very bad place or going to be reborn as a snail. What? That's not love. It is not love. Love is understanding that people are that way for a reason. And that irrationally, you should go about fixing that human brain, which is why we have this sense of higher power, is because we have this sense that there's this brain operating in us, that it's perhaps the most real us, but at the same time, not the normal me, that feels an agency over things. But that's another time, look into brain research, right? You're a trauma therapist. Don't ignore brain research, all right? It's my big peeve. Yeah. It's okay to be angry. Not okay to be hateful. And definitely not okay to act on it. All right? So, you will vote progressive. And who is the most progressive candidate running for office right now in the United States? It's Kamala. You've thrown away your vote to vote for anybody else. You got to be practical. A mystic is practical. That's why, some of them set up some kind of gateway. It's like they still have a little bit of a religion thrown in because it's a finger pointing to the moon. And you just hope that they go past the finger and look at the moon, get in touch with the real love flow. Not everybody does so, but in the meantime, you have to be practical in dealing with a society. And so some of them set up religions or allowed religions to develop around them. So, yeah, but they essentially came to fulfill the need for it. Interesting. And I think quite factual. All right, that's why you see all this congruence, at the progressive level in all the religions. There's inkling in there, like, look beyond. Yeah. So, vote for Kamala. It's a practical thing to do. You got to look at the results of, what if I do this and what I do that, what will happen later? And if you're a loving person, that's objective empathy. Consider the consequences and, and how things are going to go. Have a little counseling empathy for yourself. And if you tell yourself what you know you need to do, sometimes you don't need anybody else coming in and telling you. The mystic has this power to use their inner mind communication to become more loving, to transcend their ego. And so from that point, I'll go into entering the infant mind. And I'm going to show a way to do that. And then once you've done that, I want you as the inner child to reach up to your inner artist. And the inner artist is the imaginer of all you imagine. It is who you are as the mystic when you go into your inner mind. You put that hat on. You take that role. That's who you are as a therapist if you're doing therapy. You are opening up the power of imagination and feeling, you know, and the skills of empathy and awareness for someone else. And they're a very good therapist. There's some who are not so much, and I think they cost too much a lot of times because people who can help themselves aren't doing it and aren't encouraged to do it. And that includes patients and people who don't need to be patients. They can do it themselves. And of course, most of the great mystics, they were talking to people who could do it themselves, you know. Otherwise, yeah, there's a lot of teaching that needs to be done. And the safe way to do it might be parables. All right? Now, I've got a little bit off of my aim here, but again, Jesus, unless you take up your cross and follow after me. What does that mean? Unless you feel that damaged faith and love. That is, unless you feel that blocked need resulting from damaged, when your faith and love was damaged, that helplessness to feel, which is to be real, which is to be truly alive. Yeah, you have to feel that in order to be full of life, or the wholesome spirit. So that's, you know, a very important statement. And then this isn't then follow me, you know. Well, that's objective empathy. You want to follow what's the best route for you going forward, with an understanding of the past, but not going into the past to heal from it. That's another process. That's a process of yourself looking in communication with the caregiver, the compassionate empathy, which can heal damaged faith and love. Because you have to experience that taking up the cross. You have to feel. But the inner artist is that power in you to be outside of your dramatic self-concept and your whole dramatic experience in life, and see the value of the thing as a story. It's a great story, and then it calls to you to be the hero of love. In that story, the way the mystics do. Your inner mystic, the inner artist, is calling you to follow the path of love. Make the story really great. That almost brings tears to my eyes. It's just so beautiful. So, how do we do this? Well, let's enter the infant mind, and let's do it in a playful way. To enter the infant mind, you need to push language out of consideration. A lot of people do what they call mantra yoga, which repeats a phrase again and again and again until it's meaningless. But to me, that's a little, it's not very fun, and it's not very playful, and it doesn't touch that playfulness in your infant mind, your inner infant. Well, what would? Well, just make up, sounds that sound like language, and you can say them or sing them, or both, and you do it in a way that connects to feeling, the infant mind, feeling without language, without conceptualizing what it is you're feeling. And so that has a great deal of value. So, first of all, let's start with the infant mind. And you can do this. You can do this with music if you prefer, but it's more impacting if you're doing it with your own musical instrument inside here. But and it doesn't have to be musical. It can just be playfully playing with sound. People say, "Oh, you shouldn't baby talk to the baby because then they won't learn." They're playing with sound, and you're empathizing with them. When you do baby talk, that's why the instinct is, hello. There's a reason for that, and some of the people who fled to the head don't understand that. Okay, fine. But moving right along. Irunaya satin mam yasarin uru aili amin amin amin. Total surrender. Alashiri karanielu aferendai amar noru astum. Irengangayo Uranai Chichitu Tokorana Idela no Gari Satya Shaktiela Sabachana Tsukuma Now enter the ego concepted, made up a word. Enter into your language ego, the child, your inner child, your dramatic self with language. Make an appeal to the inner artist. Dear Lord of my existence, that which knows what I am about to decide before I know I have decided it. I appeal to you, great mystery. I appeal to you, imaginer of all I imagine. Show me, help me, see what I need to see right now. Now, what does the inner artist do? The inner artist creates, like a guided meditation, an experience for you, by you. And it's bound to be more sensitive to you than someone just making it up for you. So, learn that skill, a little storytelling. Well, this may or may not apply to you, it's just an example. I see you looking at a star-filled sky on a cool beach with the waves laughing over your feet. And the sound of the waves drawing you in just before the morning. And as the sun rises, as the planet turns, and you with it, see a new day and a greater hope. You see how the artist might tend to be a little poetic. Yeah. That could be, very attractive. And Muhammad, may peace be upon him, had a very attractive presentation that he received from his own inner artist, and called it the Quran. Religion was allowed, as Jesus said with Moses, he allowed it because of the hardness of your hearts. So, you allow certain things, but you always push to see beyond the law and the prophets. And so Muhammad, may peace be upon him, begins every surah. I begin in the name of Allah, his name for God, all merciful, all compassionate. That's beyond the law and the prophets. But then he presents some presentation about how society might work, and maybe a story or two to teach you. And we all form great attachment to our religions, if we have one. But I always like to point out, it's a finger pointing to the moon. The moon is the love flow, which doesn't need the law or the prophets. I always see through a glass darkly. My own phrasing. But then, face to face. And you see this happening in near-death experiences, where the condition is so terrible that the inner artist creates a wonderful world full of love, face-to-face love. In most cases. Or it leaves you with the finger pointing to the moon, an encouragement to improve. Yes, with a negative experience. So, is there more to it than that? That's up to you. Whatever you think. But again, we very attached to our religions, but they should not become the reason for wars. All the prophets, all the mystic teachers point to the love flow. And that's where we all meet together. And in that joy, which you can have at any moment, we find heaven with no time, in the full embrace of the inner artist, a complete flow of love. So, I don't really care what you believe. I care whether you're following the mystic path. But remember, in the teaching, there's a limitation. And as the Buddha said of his own teaching, it was like a raft. and get you to the other side. But when you get to the other side, you don't need the raft anymore. Don't walk around with it on your back. You've arrived. So, please understand all of this. Hear the voice of the inner artist in you. And don't lash out with punishment against people. It won't change them, and it will poison your own life. Don't point out to people that they're not as loving as you would like them to be. Love them. Make them part of your love flow. But teach the way, the Dharma. The Dharma is the teaching of the love flow. When I was leaving after my first visit to a monastery, a Buddhist monastery, the abbot was quite fond of me. He was a person even younger than I am now, I think, but still much older. I was, I think, 20 years old, 19, something like that. He had a great attachment to me in ways, and some hopes for me. And he had almost a sixth sense of when I would be on the edge of making a decision that was, I felt a lot of puzzlement over, and he would come and give a very simple 2 or 3 sentence fix, which usually was, he would say, straight is better. In other words, go straight to it. You know, connect. You know, and when I was meditating through the night, and this is a guy who gets up early in the morning, goes to bed early, but he came walking by me in Kinhin, you know, walking meditation. And when I noticed and looked up, he glanced at me and continued to walk. And then again back to when I was leaving the first time on my journey to study many religions. He came to me and he said, will you take the Buddha with you? I says, oh, I don't know. I was raised Christian. But I'll take the Dharma with me. He said, good. You take the Dharma with you. So, we've all had many teachers. That should not divide us. And this channel is about uniting us in love so that we don't destroy this precious species called human, and can keep looking up, as Neil deGrasse Tyson and his mentor said, keep looking up to the stars, to our hope, to continue living a beautiful drama right until the end. which is the goal of all of us individually. Again, I say vote for Kamala and all of the Democrats if you're in the United States. For the progressives in your own country, vote for them and give them support. But make sure that you keep practicality in mind and nudge things in the right direction. Don't try to jerk things around. It just causes confusion. Perhaps one day we will lay aside weapons of war. It's become almost a necessity now. It would be a lot of work to make peace and to expand love, but consider the alternative. And until we meet again, may your inner artist bless you. May you be full of wonder, appreciating all of life and everyone, and considering all of even the most fallen as an opportunity to learn and to grow, not just for them, but for yourself and our world.